Oh, Christ. It's the last day of the last week of the campaign. It's Friday morning.
It is.
What are you thinking? How do you feel, Jenny?
What are you asking me how I feel as a person or as a conservative? Because they're very two different things.
As a person. Let's start with that.
As a person, it's great. It's going to be nice out today. I actually have to go. I have to go to, I'm going to the Bay to look for, I've got to take like 18 different fucking styles of clothes to wear with Scott and I on TV. So I've got to go like buy some shit, which Scott, I have to say, I'm really looking forward to seeing you. I can't wait to give you a hug.
I can't wait either. And you're going to be so excited about my suit. It's straight out of the Justice League. They have no idea, but I'm coming as Green Lantern. Fuck them. I don't care. I don't care if it's too bright for TV.
So I'm doing great, David. I would say that I'd be doing less great if you were to ask me how I was doing as a conservative, but we can get into that.
Well, we may or may not get into that. Texaco, I'm going to leave you for a second there. Hey, Nick.
Hey, David.
Not Texaco.
Nick, we just made an impromptu decision to do an extra pod this week, tomorrow morning. Are you going to join us?
Doesn't that sound like fun?
It does sound like fucking fun, Nick. That's fun.
Nick searches his phone for a message from his boss saying that his pay is being increased by 1/7. No. It's free fun, Nick. It's uncompensated fun, which is the only true sort of fun, Nick.
Yeah.
So are you in or not?
I'm the luckiest man in the world. I'll be there. Don't worry.
Woo! Excellent. So, Curse of Politics tomorrow morning, perhaps a little later. We may sleep in an hour or so extra, so look a little bit later, but you'll get a Curse of Politics tomorrow. Nick Taylor-Vasey from Politico is broadcasting from his parents' house in Scarborough, and it's too early. You can't see this because you're listening to the show, but it's too early to turn the lights on. So he's sitting in the dark in his parents' house, doesn't want to wake anybody up in Scarborough. How are you, brother?
Misinformation. I'm good. I'm goddamn tired, but I'm entering my 20th wind. We've got one weekend left. We got a Monday. And then who knows after that? Who knows? Maybe it'll be close, maybe it won't. But I'm ready for this final goddamn home stretch.
Is that a guitar behind you,
Surely
Nick?
nobody is... Yeah, it is a guitar.
Do you play guitar?
That is a guitar. No, this isn't my house. None of this is
It's not even your parents' house, is it? You're not telling the truth. You've just broken into someone's home to do this pod. That's why the lights are out.
Well,
you don't know where the lights are.
Scott. That's what we do in Scarborough. We find a house, we make it our own.
Speaking of Scarborough, Nick, surely to Christ, no leader is there today. There'd be no seats in play in Scarborough.
That is true. I'm sitting in the middle of John McKay's riding, and John McKay will be a Liberal MP as long as John McKay wants to be a Liberal MP, pretty sure.
I came to that conclusion in the mid-2000s.
Yeah. You want to know where the leaders are?
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so Justin Trudeau's in Windsor, and this is my favorite stop of the day for any of the leaders because Sandra Pupatello is running against Brian Massey in Windsor West, right there beside Detroit. She did it in 2019. I followed her around. I followed him around from door to door. They both took me to exactly the places in their ridings that you'd think they would take me. I went to like the Union heavy streets with Massey, and I went to Sandra Pupatello's, like the street she grew up on. She didn't end up winning. I imagine she was not very happy about that. She wants to do it again. Trudeau's there. I have a feeling he's not going to Essex. I think he's going to Windsor West to give his candidate there a boost and some photos and maybe an ad. Who knows? But that's where he starts, and I don't know where he ends. But he's in the Southwest Ontario. O'Toole's not far away to start. He's in London. And then he's heading over to St. Catharines. I don't have too many interesting things to say about those two places in the context of Erin O'Toole, except that those are two cities and they have seats, and he wants to win seats. So that's all.
Does Politico have an interview scheduled with Erin O'Toole?
No, unless you guys think you can give us a bit of a boost and maybe secure something here in the last couple of days.
Well, if you've been
No, I think
listening
it's
to the
hard to get
pod,
in-
you'll know that we have a lot of pull with his campaign.
Yeah, I actually will have. I think
it appears
it's
difficult to get an interview with O'Toole these days.
Yeah, I saw
Yeah.
that he canceled on CTV, but I think it would be best if David or Scott called the Conservative War Room. They'd probably be better apt to get you an interview.
Well, the same goes with the Liberal one, Jenny. If I ever need a favor, you're making the call. Okay, Nick, what else? Give us something else.
Well, then we got Jagmeet Singh. Jagmeet Singh is in Sherbrooke,
Yeah.
and this is a riding similar to, I think, Windsor West for the Liberals. They really want it. This was where Pierre-Luc Dussault was the youngest MP in Parliament after the 2011 Orange Wave. Not certain that they've got a hell of a shot in Sherbrooke, but they really would love it. And so that's where Jagmeet is today. Then he's
their candidate
driving
is
the bus east.
Their candidate is a SAGEP student.
That's true.
Yeah, okay. It's ridiculous. I'm picking up on Jenny's point yesterday. What are they doing there? I understand they won it a decade ago, but if they've got a cannon fodder candidate who's a SAGEP student, it's ridiculous that they would spend one of their final 4 days there. It's just ridiculous.
I love teeing these things up for you guys. That is very true. There are two students running in that campaign. In fact, one being the NDP candidate. Then Singh is going over to Nova Scotia. He's finishing in Halifax, a riding that they also would like to win, and also
I don't think since Alex McDonough held the seat have won.
No.
Why are they running?
Megan Leslie.
Megan
Leslie. Megan Leslie. Sorry, I can't believe I forgot about her.
Megan Leslie was extremely popular, and Megan Leslie's on CBC radio with me on election night. She's not on the ballot in Halifax.
I like Megan Leslie. I've been on TV and radio with her. She's fun.
Yeah.
She's got a good sense of humor.
She's great. She's great, but she's not on the ballot.
No, she's not. No.
I don't know why the NDP spending their last days going to ridings that they would win if they won 100 seats instead of ridings that they would win if they won 45 seats.
David, I think, I'm not trying to jump in and answer for everyone, but I think it's safe to say there's a lot of decisions being made this campaign that are inexplicable.
It's back to my point about alchemy for those guys. And in all honesty, and I know it sounds snotty and it drives my New Democrat friends crazy, but for Pete's sake, it's just we believe in this final hour before the clock strikes midnight, his appeal will burst through and win them seats. And there's no, it's a recipe without the last set of measurements. How do you get from popular to Parliament? And they don't have the answer, I don't think. They won't find it in fucking Sherbrooke.
No.
That sounds like it could be a Dylan song. You won't find it in Sherbrooke.
Speaking of Dylan, he released the latest of the bootleg series today. Hat, shirt, Springtime in New York. They got a tight connection to my heart, David. One of your favorites. There's 2 versions of it. Brand new outtakes.
And they're beating the devil out of a guy who's wearing a powder blue wig.
Later he'll be shot for resisting arrest. I love it.
Nick, welcome to This Is How It Usually Is.
I was going to say
all
it sounds
because
more like
of
a
your
Gordon
guitar.
Lightfoot song that you're talking about.
Oh, don't say
Him.
Said, fellas,
was
it's
a great-
too rough to feed ya, which I think is the song that's currently playing at the Conservative War Room.
Oh,
Boom!
Ooh, all right, we got to get going. Nick, you can hang her out if you want, but we got to carry on.
No, I'm going to wander the streets in search of coffee. I'll see you guys. I guess I'll see you tomorrow morning.
see you tomorrow, Nick.
All right.
Sure will.
All right, so long.
Thanks, man.
All right, David,
Come on.
we need it.
We really need it. It matters more now. I'm getting to the bottom of the bag, baby. I'm gonna fumbling through the stems, looking for a little bit more. Come on. Roll me up some numbers.
3 nights. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. 1,249 cases. Plus or minus 2.5 percentage points. Conservatives, 31. Liberals, 30. NDP, 19. Green, 4. People's Party, 9. Bloc Québécois, 7.
Ooh.
Ontario, 477 cases, plus or minus 5 points. Liberals 39.
Ooh.
Conservatives 31. NDP 18. Green Party 5. People's Party 7.
Well, with these numbers, not to carry on the Windsor side, I don't think your friend Sandra Pupatella wins based on if these numbers are accurate.
No.
No.
It's a very 2019 kind of number, isn't it? That Ontario
Not
number?
as good.
It's
Not quite as good.
Not quite as good, right?
Yeah, the NDP are up in Ontario, but the Liberals are down a bit. But it's very close. Like I don't think it changes. I don't think it changes the result. The only thing that changes the result is the People's Party, which is up, depending on how you're looking at it. They're up a good 5-6% from where they were. So to me, if you're a conservative,
maybe fluky with a vote split somewhere, right?
Yeah, vote split doesn't help like us, like me.
No.
With you guys. Yeah.
The Dylan fans.
The Dylan fans, yes.
By the way, just FYI, it's only 141 cases.
Where?
It's only 141 cases, but the People's Party is at 17% in Alberta today on the 3-day roll.
That makes sense, though.
I spoke to a lot of people from Alberta yesterday, and I'm not surprised if even if they're at 10 or 12%. I am not surprised based on what I'm hearing from people at West.
But David, did you say the Liberals are at 30 nationally, 30-31? 31 Conservative, yep. 30 Liberal? So that shows a tightening on a national basis, but it shows a spreading in Ontario. So where have the Liberals been losing ground according to Frank's tracking?
Quebec, it's only 300 cases. So it's a margin of error of 5.5 points.
That fucking debate.
Today has the Bloc Québécois at 30, the Liberals at 29.
That's the first. The Libs. That's the first. I think Frank's had the Libs losing, or lower than the Bloc for the election.
That's right.
Well, man, if that's accurate, that's a big problem.
Yeah, but it's still a win. It's still a win for you guys.
Still a win.
It's still a win. Like this is the thing. Like if we were having this conversation 3.5-4 weeks ago, like when we were talking kind of 1 week into the campaign, you guys would fucking relish these numbers.
No question. I just saying it felt like things were maybe rolling, but these numbers don't feel rolling, right? They feel like
so. It's a hilarious story of expectations. Hilarious story of expectations, right? Because this result would have been terrible for the Liberals when they contemplated calling the election, but they'll be happy with it now. This result would have been, maybe at some point we would have thought the Conservatives might do worse than this campaign weeks before the election campaign, but now it's a disappointment based on where things are at. But I certainly can't see a Conservative plurality with Ontario numbers like that.
No, Fortress Ontario is coming through for them.
No, I think that's fair. I think though that who are going to be disappointed though, David, are Conservatives. That like when this election started, Conservative voters, like, friends, family, countrymen that support the Conservative Party that I spoke to were a lot more bullish. I was less bullish than most Conservatives, as you know. But there were a lot of people bullish that thought this was the chance that we were going to have to take out Trudeau, and there was a lot of things, a lot of bargains, deals with the devil made to make that happen, and it's turning out to not have worked if the numbers stay the same way that they are now in 3 days.
Deal with the carbon price devil. I sat down with Lucifer and said, "Let's talk climate change here in hell. My name is Aaron O'Toole. Let's trade."
I feel that's like it's like a South Park episode.
It sounds very much like it. Yeah, it's getting kind of strange.
Well, we're still on our perception versus reality frame here, but this one time, I'd like to take it in a different direction. Perception. Norm Macdonald was unyielding in his comedy, honest and brave. That made him more than hilarious. It made him relevant and revered by his fans, and especially his peers. The reality? Norm Macdonald was every bit of that, and more than my few words can capture here. So here comes the segue, as Norm would have warned you. The perception is that presenting sponsor TELUS is a telco, a carrier that makes your smartphone connect. The reality is, TELUS is more than that. They are a global technology leader, innovating and investing in digital technology with social purpose. TELUS Health is a perfect example. Canada's biggest and frankly most important IT healthcare provider. We all know how critical virtual healthcare has been for us this past 18 months. Canadians wanting to stay safe, but still needing to connect digitally with practitioners for diagnoses and treatment. The TELUS MyCare app was, in a large way, responsible for that. With over 1 million downloads, it's already revolutionized virtual healthcare, making it easier and more accessible. And as 5G continues to roll out, TELUS will keep investing to improve outcomes, to deepen healthcare integration with AI and the Internet of Things. That's how TELUS differs from its competitors. Their priorities seem to be spending money on sports franchises and expanding their media properties. TELUS would rather invest in key industries like healthcare and agriculture and more to make people's lives better. You can learn more about it all at TELUS.com. I just don't know how they thought it was going to unfold, because it's not like the Liberals responded to the Conservative campaign in any unpredictable way. So this Alberta thing, let's say that's just shit luck for O'Toole. So Kenny's his friend, Kenny support him for the leadership, Kenny put him into the job, and then in the last minute of the campaign, this happens. That is shit luck. But the rest of what's happened to the O'Toole campaign feels like a campaign that didn't game it out past the first couple of moves.
Yeah. It's felt like that since just prior to, since the gun thing, right? So they didn't have an effective counter to the gun thing. It took them 4 days, 5 days, and they never had a second gear to go to. They never said, okay, so we know they're going to come and do this. It's like they thought, well, if we do these other things, and if we rebrand Aaron, then we'll make ourselves invincible to the predictable attack, as opposed to saying, when the inevitable attack comes, how shall we handle it, and what will our counter be? How will we get back in control of the message? They've surrendered control of the message just prior to the debates, and they've never regained it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think, though, the rebranding of Aaron actually happened during the leadership race. What we're seeing now is actually who Aaron is as a politician, like what his ideology is, where he is at. This is Aaron. This is who he is. And so the rebranding was what I said yesterday was how he ran, how he won the leadership. And so we'll see if it works.
Not entirely true blue conservative. It's not really true. Yeah.
And so we'll see if it works. We've got 3 days to see if they can get the votes out. But I think based on what we're not just seeing in the numbers in terms of the PPC, but also what we're seeing on the ground, what I'm hearing on the ground, what I'm seeing on the ground in the times I've been outdoor knocking, which haven't been as many as what I would like, but when I'm talking to campaign managers and candidates and people that are spending their days on the ground, PPC is a real thing, and it really is eating into our vote. The Conservative war room can tell themselves that it's anti-vaxxers, it's disaffected Liberals, it's disaffected Dippers and Green Party members. They can tell themselves that if it gets them through the next 3 days, but that's not the case.
Hey, Scott, can you walk us through a decision like they made yesterday not to do the CTV interview?
Well, I'm trying to
think of how we would have persuaded Paul to cancel an interview with CTV.
Well, I'm glad you asked, because I really, I've thought a lot about it, and I find it a really puzzling decision. And the reason I find it puzzling, you would expect somebody like me, right, a comms donkey, to be an advocate always for no. Like, I can't go out there and tell CTV that we're not doing the interview. And that's not a good reason to not cancel it. I mean, if there are strategic reasons that it makes sense for a campaign to say, we're not going to do this, we're not going to get into this back and forth, then you do it. But I think it's a function of what happened to him yesterday. I think it's an outgrowth of Jason Kenney's Wednesday night. So Wednesday night, obviously you've got this earthquake event for Jason Kenney in Alberta. Yesterday morning, and it's sort of in the same vein, they did not prepare to my way of thinking, in a practical way, for the questions that we're going to get with respect to vaccine passports. And now the contradiction not just between, his vision and Trudeau's vision, or whatever you want to call it, but now you got Kenney saying, look, It might be a personal choice, but there's a public set of consequences, and you got to go this way. And he spent that entire news conference yesterday morning, Aaron O'Toole, simply refusing to answer that question, right? And you could feel the media getting agitated. So he doesn't have an answer to a question that's not just the most salient question to media, but the question is starting to overwhelm the country and the campaign. So you guarantee a set of stories that just say, and Aaron O'Toole today refused to answer questions about this in a position that a plurality of you are going to find, if not a majority of you Canadian voters, are going to find unacceptable. And now he says to himself, I assume the campaign's logic is, if we do the one-on-one interview with CTV, and if we do other then we're just going to be subjected to more. Yeah, it's going to be subjected to an even more lethal cross-examination on that issue, where you can't sort of just use the podium to buffer yourself. You're really stuck there with Lisa LaFlamme just eyeballing you and taking you to threads. So they say, okay, we'll bail out of it. I think they're going to guarantee themselves that this will be the focus for the next 2-3 days, if this is the way they handle it. If they don't have some kind of strategy to manage this issue, then they guarantee this issue dominates the last 3 days. And I know that we said at the beginning of this campaign that if the campaign ends being dominated by the issue of vaccinations and the pandemic, that is bad for the Conservatives. And if it was affordability and economic progress, then it would be good for the Conservatives. So I think they're making a decision that offers them no return and lots of negative. And it means to me they're just going to drift in a negative way into the weekend and the final voting day without any control. And I think that's an awful bad strategy when you're a small number of points behind.
Yeah, I agree with almost everything that Scott said there, but he's also got himself in trouble in terms of explaining certain policies he's had. So the carbon tax, what we've talked about, has been a controversial policy for people that would be conservative inclined. It's something that it was a Hail Mary pass that I think they seemingly did. They did it in April, so they were planning to. It wasn't like they were throwing it out there. But he tripped up this week in terms of talking about the carbon tax. We kind of joked about it yesterday. But he tripped up in saying, and I think it was in one of these interviews where, I'm like, if provinces want to keep the current carbon tax and they don't want to keep my shitty one, then they can totally fucking do that. And so it's Aaron seemingly when when he doesn't have, Scott, to your point, the protection of the podium, he's a little bit more loose in terms of his style than what he is when he's up doing Q&A, because he's actually very rigid when he's actually up doing a Q&A. Like, he sticks pretty much to the talking points. And so I think they've made the calculated decision. They would rather talk about the process of not doing an interview on the most watched network in the country than actually have put their candidate out there doing it.
The biggest problem with that, from my perspective, is that if the hope is that it will diminish the focus around that issue, I think it's a mistake, because one thing about the practicalities of dealing with the media, and maybe it matters a lot less than it used to 20 years ago when the main networks controlled how people consumed information, but it still matters. They're not going to let them get away with it for the next few days. So you're just going to get stories about him not answering questions. Those stories aren't interesting to real people. So it just means that you get either a negative story or no story. And you've got to do something to win this campaign. To think that media are going to cover up whatever your campaign events are for the next 2 days straight up, they won't. They won't on a personal level. The reporters won't let you do that. They're going to take their pound of flesh and say, this motherfucker won't answer my question. And I'm going to report on the fact that he won't answer my question. I'll pound him on that for the next 2-3 days. So they rob themselves of any message. And I don't think when you're behind by a hair like this, you can afford to rob yourself of a message on the last 3 days of the campaign.
Well, I agree with you. We've talked about it. This is going to be a campaign more than any that I think we've seen in 20 years, if not more, that is going to literally go riding by riding by riding. Like, Aaron is in London today, and it's going to be interesting to see that Elgin, Middlesex, London is a riding where PPC is running. Chelsea Hillier, Randy Hillier's an MPP here in Ontario, and his daughter is running. And from what I've heard, running a very good campaign and getting a lot of support. So I doubt, like, we got 50% of the vote in that riding in the last election. So I don't think that we're going to lose it, but it's going to be very interesting to see whether she is, kind of north of 10% or south of 10%. And so it's when you're looking, to Scott's point of riding by riding, that this is going to be in terms of the results, it's these little niggling stories that are going to not help you in the final 3 days.
I'm sorry. I zoned out a little bit there after Jenni said, I zoned out a little bit there after Jenni started talking about the carbon tax, because I still cannot believe that we've gone through an entire campaign where the number one issue in the country is the affordability of life and the rising cost of living. And the Conservatives have never told anybody that it is the Liberal plan to raise the tax on a liter of gas by 40 cents.
But this is what Jenni was talking about earlier.
I don't understand.
You zoned out. We've already talked about this, David.
No. But it's Jenni's point. They made a decision to rob themselves of that argument. They made a decision based on watching 2019 that they weren't going to permit the carbon tax and climate change to be a battleground issue. And I it's not my worldview, but as a matter of strategy, you would have thought that it might have been the best bat they could have whacked the Liberals around the head with when it came to cost.
It was never, carbon tax was never an issue, regardless of what some past Conservative MPs, what other people have said. Carbon tax was not the issue that we had in 2019. It never was. It remains to this day still a winning issue with people for the exact reasons why you guys just said. We can agree to disagree on the policy, but the politics of it remains very smart. And so the O'Toole campaign has misguidedly thought that this was a shield for us, when in fact it's the biggest fucking sword we have in our quiver, or whatever. I don't know what you keep swords in. I know you keep arrows and quivers, but
a scabbard. In a scabbard. I keep it in my scabbard.
Okay, well, it's.
I also have a scabbard on my back because I fell in the driveway. But anyway, if I did fall in the driveway, that's how old I'm getting. I'm like Uncle Earl, Oh, what's he doing in the driveway by himself? Down he goes. David, you made this point months ago on the previous version of this pod, which no longer exists because we've wiped it out completely. Like Aaron O'Toole, we've rebranded or branded or something like that. But you made this point a long time ago.
Spike Pod. We're called Spike Pod now.
We're Spike Pod. We're Vagination Pod or something, whatever the hell it is.
Oh wow, that sounds something.
No, that was bad.
Yeah,
that name is. I don't know, man. Am I the only one? I think those names are really dancing on the edge as far as I'm concerned.
How do you take that one?
You said months ago. You said I'm not. Yeah, geez. Nice try. You're trying to end me with that. You're trying to get me to say what is it? Menu item number 6. You're trying to get me to pull it up and say it, and I'm not. You said months ago, David. You said, why wouldn't the Conservatives try to neutralize the issue of climate, bring in a robust climate plan, make it all about big emitters, all that kind of stuff, take carbon tax off the table, say carbon tax will be, don't have a carbon tax, but make it the battleground and make it an affordability issue. And you just have to wonder, in a campaign which I think now has told us, as we're in the final days, that it is going to be about the pandemic. That's how it's going to end. It's going to end on this issue. That's going to be the issue of public discussion, fourth wave and pandemic on these final days. Would they have had a better chance if they had added that issue as a point of conflict to their argument at the outset? Because if they'd had that first good 2 weeks and they'd had this price differential, might they have had a greater shot at controlling the campaign and the campaign's message? But
yes.
It's a what if now.
Yes is the answer.
It's too early to do postmortems, I suppose. We shouldn't be.
We've started it 3 days.
Right.
We started
it 3 days ago.
We started the autopsy, and the body's still moving. Wait, I'm a fighter pilot. I'm a navigator, not a dead man. God damn it.
All right, we got to wrap up, and normally that would be so sad, except we're gathering again tomorrow morning. So before we wrap up, I just want to be clear to people, on election night, where do they find you guys?
Scott and I are actually going to be sitting beside each other
You bet.
At CTV, where I'm so excited to be in studio. We're going to be with Evan Solomon and Lisa Laflamme, and I am extremely excited. On Sunday, we're going to be taping Question Period together, and I'm excited to give Scott a hug. So David, you're going to be jealous. We're gonna take a selfie of giving each other a hug.
It'll be like Lady and the Tramp. There's going to be one plate of spaghetti, and we'll both be noodling right toward each other.
Well, when I was a kid, I thought that the local radio commentators did a better job on the Rider games than the TV broadcasters. And so when a game was on TV, I would turn the sound off on the television and I would listen to the radio broadcast of the football game. And this is what I urge all cursors to do on election night, which is to put Scott and Jenni on the TV and turn the sound off and turn on CBC Radio, where you can hear me talking with Chris Hall and Susan Bonner and other illustrious people. So that's where I'll be on election night.
Lots of people want to get it on the radio. That's people who fondly remember the bombing of Britain as an example. Radio is their medium of choice. I think it would be great, David.
Listen, David, my dad talks about he listened to Paul Henderson's goal in 1972 for the game-winning for the Canada Cup Series. He listened to it. He listened to it on the radio while he was working.
Probably a more impressive goal that way than when you watched it. Could have imagined how amazing it was.
It was amazing. Yeah, don't be a dick about that, David.
No, it was amazing. I'm not a dick about it. Just, I'll take any goal in that circumstance.
Not a dick about that.
Okay.
But we'd rather talk about Pete Mahavlich's goal.
Ladies and gentlemen, please return to your seats. The Hey Yous are about to begin.
Who's got a Hey You?
My Hey You is I do. So my Hey You is follows up on the conversation we had yesterday. And it's not actually directed to all campaigns. It's directed to my friends in ridings in Conservative campaigns. I know how fucking tough this election has been and how hard you guys have worked. So honestly, drag out all the noise, drown out the noise, drown out everything you're hearing, even from people like me, and just fucking get your vote out. This literally is the only thing you can do. There is really nothing from a communications point of view. There is nothing from a strategy point of view that can change the outcome of the election right now. The only thing you can do is change the outcome of your riding, and the only strategy is getting those people out to vote on Monday. And so my Hey You is to all my friends locally in local campaigns. Just please get your fucking vote out.
Nice. Good one. Scott?
My Hey You is to the Liberal campaign, and it's a little bit of a sequel to yesterday's. The best thing that can happen to the Liberal campaign is the top line number that you just gave us today, David. It's a 31 Conservative, 30 Liberal number. That is the very best thing that can happen to the Liberal campaign. They need people to think that the Conservatives are going to form government, that it's a very real possibility. People are not in the mood to give anyone their vote. They wish to take their vote from someone, and you want them to be going into the ballot box thinking they're taking their vote away from the Conservative campaign and Aaron O'Toole and denying them government. And so over the course of the weekend, it's always very tempting to talk about momentum, to say we're on the verge, we're going to win, you're doing this, it's all going great, and enthusiastic. And I get that. You don't want to run scared. You want to run loser. You want people to think you're losing, and you've got to have that mentality. You only win through losing. This is my new infomercial. You can see me after midnight on most networks. You only win by losing. You only win by losing. And the Liberal campaign needs Frank's 31-30. They need people to think they're losing. That's the only way they're going to pull this thing out and have people not switch against them in the ballot box and probably scoop a couple of those NDP votes while Jagmeet Singh is off in Sherbrooke, Quebec, talking to a SAGEP student.
Yeah, well, my Hey You is really a follow-up on both of yours, and mine will be a shout-out to Liberal candidates. There are bizarre splits out there. I don't trust any seat model understands what the demise of the Greens and the rise of the People's Party really does. And I'm skeptical that the NDP vote's going to hold. Just mark me down as a skeptic. In fact, I'll put money right now that they do not get 20% of the vote on election night. I will I'll take comers on that one, that they do not get 20% of the vote on election night. So there are lots of ridings up for grabs. And if you're out there, and I know everybody thinks they're winning at this point in time, but if you really think you have a chance to win, you probably do. So work your ass off this weekend. Hey, so we'll see you tomorrow morning. We'll record a little bit later. We'll see you tomorrow morning, and we'll be back, everybody, with more numbers, more data, and more banter. In the meantime, I'd like to thank our presenting sponsor, TELUS. I'd like to thank EKOS and Frank Graves for the data, and I'd like to thank Nick Taylor-Vasey and Politico for their contribution to this effort and their support and their promotion. They've made a real contribution. Nick has been a great part of this show throughout the election. So we'll see you tomorrow, and then we'll be back on Monday for the big show. See you then. In the meantime, take care of yourself.